What's up, y'all? You're listening to the Extra Point College Football Podcast. I'm your host, Jacob Karnes, joined as always by my co-host, Daniel Hammock. Daniel, we have made it through the best part of the season, the regular season. We have made it through Conference Championship Weekend. We have crowned conference champions. We got the committee's rankings. We have a playoff set. On this episode, Daniel, we're going to react to our conference champions, react to those games, what happened, what we learned from those teams, college football playoff rankings reaction. Did the committee get it right? What did they do? What do we think about it? Bowl games to keep an eye on. Bowl season is happening still, despite what Notre Dame would like you to believe. Bowl games are still happening, and they're still fun. Which teams in this field can actually win the whole thing? How many and which ones? You'll get our answers to that. Be thinking about that as you're listening. We'll go ahead and do our first round picks against the spread, not just straight up, but against the spread, because I think two of those games against the spread will be more fun to pick than just straight up. And then lastly, Daniel, our full bracket breakdown. Who do we think at the beginning is going to win it all now that we have the final bracket? And we'll give you a chance. And if you're watching or listening, you can go ahead and click this link in the episode description. Join our bracket group on ESPN. Fill out a bracket, compete against us. I think there's at least 10 or 15 people in there already before we even record this that we've kind of sent some invites out. So be sure to join that, compete against us. If you think you're smarter than us as you're listening, prove it. Join our bracket group. And we haven't talked about this, Daniel. Maybe we'll do a prize. I know, look, we're teasing stuff. Next year, we're going to do some more pick stuff during the season. We're going to offer some more prizes. I will consider it this year. I don't think anybody's going to beat me, but, if
I've had people ask for hats for next year, so
okay.
I know that they have really liked the extra point hat. But yeah, I don't know what else we could provide other than our expert analysis. But yeah, we'll certainly see if there's something we could do for the fans as we get started with that.
Daniel, before we get into the playoff, we did just have some conference championship games. Look, I feel like an old man at heart. I still like conference championship games, although I know they're not that old. They're older than me, so they've been around for as long as I've been around. Look, let's just start here. We don't hide this, Daniel. You and I are Georgia fans. Let's start with the SEC championship. Georgia dominates Alabama, and it was statistically the most dominating performance of the weekend. Friend of the show, Parker Fleming, Statso War on Twitter, has the "Did we really get beat that bad?" graphic he posts on Mondays. That's just the net success rate. Georgia over Alabama, worst one on there. Highest post-game win expectancy from Bill Conley. Highest one was Georgia over Alabama. And then, Daniel, if you watch the game, because I know you might be saying, "Shut up, nerd. Who cares about stats?" Man, the difference in physicality was stark compared to that first game. That first game, I thought that Alabama matched Georgia's physicality. This one, whether it was Georgia was that much more physical or Alabama didn't want any of it, regardless, the difference in physicality was astounding. And yeah, I'm not going to, we'll save the can Georgia win it all, and if you want to nitpick Georgia, all that kind of stuff. But in this game, Daniel, that was an old school, someone who's an old school guy. That was an old school game, a field position, and impressive. Georgia, in the first 2 years without divisions, has now gone back-to-back and won the SEC back-to-back years. So I think the SEC still runs through Athens, Georgia. SEC still goes through Kirby Smart. And again, old school. I love anytime Kirby Smart gets a microphone in front of him because he's just an old school ball coach, and love listening to him. But really, really impressive win from Georgia. They get a top 4 seed in the bye, and they win the SEC. And it's really, really impressive win.
Yeah, I think this is one that before the game, everybody just had an asterisk by, because what should happen was Georgia win based on, Alabama was trending down, Georgia was trending up this last month of the season, and it just so happened that, they were meeting each other. But, Georgia has had problems with Alabama. They've never beaten Alabama in the SEC championship. Alabama had never lost a game in Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Obviously Kirby Smart, his record against Nick Saban, and then now just Alabama as a whole has, become a national talking point. So it was one of those things like, is this truly an issue? Is this going to last forever? What should we make of this? Does Kalen DeBoer have Kirby Smart's number as well? Is the black hoodie, of death the greatest? Is it better than when Florida State used to wear the unconquered jersey? Like, what what do we make of all of it? And it turned out that no, you could trust your eyes. Kirby Smart and this Georgia team are in fact physical. The streak was going to end at some point, and it kind of got exercised on that night. I mean, you and I are both obviously Georgia fans. We've been that, for our whole life. We've been, in the middle of this fan base for so long. We kind of know what the vibe is. I don't know how you feel, Jacob, but the vibe for me kind of felt like when Georgia won the national championship against Alabama in 2021 season, 2022, January of 2022, where it almost was like a sigh of relief. And finally, I was watching intently, not believing it was true until Chauncey Bowens broke that run on 3rd and 12 with 2 minutes left in the game
And
to essentially clinch the game. At that point, I was like, oh, okay, I think Georgia officially has won this game, up 3 touchdowns with 2 minutes left in the fourth quarter. I think you can say Georgia won. Yeah, but you look back on it once as soon as it's over and you start to think Georgia dominated, like you were talking about, offense, defensively, just, suffocating, line of scrimmage, special teams, obviously the punt block, starting field position, all of that. Georgia had more penalties. So if you think about it, they were actually, they had 6 more penalties and more penalty yardage. So it kind of held them back a little bit. And then, you throw in the fact that the touchdown that Alabama had, again, I'm not here to illegitimize anything. Alabama scored that touchdown, but Georgia was going to get off the field on 3rd down, and they had a player throw a punch. And then, then there was a PI call. And then a referee ended up setting a pick for the receiver that ultimately scored in Jeremy Bernard. So, again, you don't have to make excuses because they scored a touchdown. Georgia still won by plenty, and they covered, thank goodness, because they made that pick. But yeah, it's one of those things where you can almost say this was almost a shutout at one point, if those things all didn't line up for Alabama to score.
Yeah, I think the most impressive thing for Georgia, if you're a Georgia fan, is, and if you're trying to pick the playoff, is, early in the season, you and I said, okay, if Georgia's issue is the defense after the Tennessee game, then boy, did they have a coaching staff to get that fixed by the end of the year. Because this is 2 seasons, right? I mean, whole new season now. 3 more games they got to go win. And man, the last month, Georgia's defense has started to look like Georgia's defense again. And the statistical profile, Daniel, I don't think they're ever going to touch that 21 defense ever again.
Yeah.
I'm just telling you what the numbers are saying. The numbers have matched the 22 defense the last month. And that one was good enough to win a title too. So good win for Georgia. Felt like they did what they should have done, but I think it was impressive the way they physically dominated. And the way, it seemed like they were in the backfield every play. Again, getting going after Simpson. They got 3 sacked, but it seemed like they were in the backfield every play, which is something that was not happening early in the year. And again, if you're looking at teams that are getting hot at the right time for this playoff, honestly, like Ohio State before they tried to win a game a different way last year against Michigan, Georgia's fitting that profile. Which, speaking of Ohio State, Daniel, winners first. Congrats to Indiana. I keep saying this to you and to others, which is I'm having a hard time trusting my eyes with Indiana because I'm a nerd. I love recruiting. I love the sport. I love stats. And it's not, I'm watching them play. Their stats are great. And I'm looking at the roster and it does not make any sense.
Right.
SP Plus, they're a top 4 offense, top 2. They're 4th on offense, 2nd on defense. They looked physically equal with Ohio State the other night. So huge congrats to Indiana. You could argue Curt Cignetti has done the best coaching job of all time the last 2 years, considering Indiana, when he took over, had the FBS worst winning percentage of all time as a program. And he's now gone 11-1, 12-0, 13-0 Big Ten championship. So I'm not being hyperbolic when you could say Curt Cignetti has done the greatest coaching job of all time over the last 2 seasons. I want to start there. I want to get to Ohio State, but I want to give Indiana all their flowers. This is really, really impressive, and it's not fluky.
Yeah, they had to beat Ohio State. And this Ohio State team, everybody knows the names. They've got Bo Jackson in the backfield, for goodness sake.
And they're saying he's a freshman for some reason.
This is the ultimate team, on NCAA, on college football, EA college football. But yeah, no, Indiana, it's so weird because prior to the Oregon game this year, we're going to hit that nail on the head every time. We're beat the dead horse, so to speak.
Yeah.
Before that game, not to illegitimize anything, but the Big Ten, as respectful as I can say it, is a joke. The bottom half is just, hot dog water, as the kids say. So it's not, very competitive. And if you have a pulse and if you have a good coach, which I'll say this, even before the Oregon game, I was like, no, Signetti's a great coach. I just think that Indiana is a fraud of a team because of they're held together with some gum and like a rubber band and a paper clip. Like there's no depth there. They haven't recruited. They have a good quarterback, but outside of that, what do you really have? Then they beat Oregon, who everybody, you and I both, respect immensely. And at one point, we're saying maybe the best team in the country, the way they had played, and they're still one of the best teams in the country. When they beat them, it immediately legitimized everything that Signetti had done up to that point. And we really had to start taking notice. Almost lose to a Penn State team that's a very talented team, come back and win that game. And then all eyes were on this one. Now, for some people, you're watching this game and it's like a punt fest. It's 13-10 was the final. Missed, close field goal at the end. Were both teams as passionate? This isn't, you come from watching the SEC championship where every inch matters. And this game's kind of like, is more of a professional crowd almost, more corporate. But, that being said, it was a good game. These two were close the whole time. Good coaches win games. That's what Signetti did. It is tough for me. We'll get to our playoff picks and stuff in a little while. It's still tough for me, man, to put respect on them. But I watched it with my eyes. They covered those receivers. They stopped them on third down. They forced, this great Ohio State team to punt. Indiana's defense is legitimate, just like you said. They play good team defense. I do wonder. I know this is, Signetti's just going to love this that we're doubting him because he listens to the show.
He does.
I do wonder if, as 3-year Letterman would say on Twitter, can they handle the grind of an SEC schedule? Could they handle playing every week a tough game? I do think that's where you would see this shine kind of rub off. I think that Indiana is the type of team that's well coached enough and that can get up. They get up for every game, but, when you know that you're going to be able to outmatch your opponent, that's great. Indiana has not been, like you said, historically one of those programs that can just outmatch even the lower half of the Big Ten. So still have to be impressed by them. Will we be crowning them the champion come season's end? We'll see with the playoff. They're going to have to earn it with, 3 more victories, but huge win in the Big Ten championship. Ohio State, not Big Ten champions yet again. A position they like to be in, by the way.
Yeah, they're setting up fine for a title run. Quick mention because Duke wins the ACC. Congrats to Manny Diaz for making and winning an ACC championship before Miami ever did. Miami's never made the ACC championship. Absolutely crazy. They joined the conference in 2003? Insane. They make the playoff though, so we'll have a chance to talk about Miami today. And
didn't
Texas
they make
Tech,
it under Mark Richt?
No, remember they were 10-0 and lost the last 2 games.
That's right. They were set up to do it.
Pitt. Yeah, like the last week of the season.
That's right.
Insane. And Texas Tech does exactly what they did to BYU the first time. Solidify their spot in the playoff, knock out their conference brethren from playoff consideration, and get a top 4 seed. We broke down the Texas Tech BYU game the first time. Look, that game went exactly the way it did the first time. BYU is way overmatched. Texas Tech just has a different caliber of body than the rest of the conference in the Big 12.
So Texas Tech, again, we kind of expected it. We actually both got this pick right. It was a blowout. It is what it is. Quarterback got hurt. I'm sorry, BYU didn't make it, but they got beat by the one good team they played twice this year. So it was a good run. Enjoy the Pop-Tarts Bowl since Notre Dame is not going to be there either.
Yeah, let's just jump into rankings reaction because we get the playoff field, Daniel. We get I'm pulling up the rankings now. We get the top 12 for the playoff. Of course, 2 of those were not in the top 12.
Right.
This was, you get Notre Dame at 11. They get knocked out. Miami moves up. Alabama does not move at all for getting blown out by Georgia. That was surprising to me. Georgia didn't. It seemed like the conference championships didn't affect anyone at all, minus Ohio State and Indiana swapping. Texas Tech stayed
Yep.
exactly where they were. Georgia stayed exactly where they were for a blowout win. Alabama stayed exactly where they were for a blowout loss. BYU gets blown out. They were affected. Basically, it seems like they bumped BYU down and then were forced to finally consider head-to-head between Miami and Notre Dame. My reaction is they finally got the right result. If I were handpicking the 12 teams, given the current system and the parameters, who deserves to be the top 12, I think they got the final result right. But once again, if like I say this every year, I have a huge problem with the process despite getting the right result. And I
Right.
don't know that the answer is to do away with the weekly ranking show, but I think you have to, because if you're not going to reference your previous week to week stuff at all, which we've said time and again on this podcast, which is the weekly rankings do not matter. They don't use the same logic now that they will use at the end of the season. Like Miami was 9 spots different than Notre Dame 4 weeks ago. You all of a sudden think them beating up on bad teams makes them close. No, it's just they got the result they needed to do in the end. They did the right thing. Miami should have never been that many spots behind Notre Dame. The only thing I'll say to the Notre Dame side, Daniel, is, and it sucks to suck, you lost 2 games. So again, this is with expansion, we're going to argue over which two or three loss team deserves to get in. It's who cares. But I do think this is only second year of the 12 team playoff. This is the first time a team has been left out of the 12 team playoff that I think could have won the whole thing. And when we go to our next section of like which teams can actually win the national championship, this is a team that I would have had on my list of can win the whole thing, and they got left out. But you know why they got left out, Daniel? Because they lost to the 2 best teams they played. They went 10-2, and they don't have a chance to show that they're elite in the conference championship game. And I do think this is the first time Notre Dame's been punished for not being in a conference. The committee got the right result. I don't love the process still. I kind of think do away with the weekly rankings and think about how amazing that reveal would be on Sunday. If you actually have no idea which teams are locked in or not, like think about Alabama. If you have no idea where they are and you're like, are they in or are they out?
Yeah.
And it's not like, oh, well, they were at 9, so if they drop 1, they're at 10. If you have no idea and you're like BYU, Vandy, Texas, like, but then I think the people who think it's all a conspiracy just fuel their fire of the committee's doing whatever they want. Spoiler alert, they're doing whatever they want anyway.
Yeah.
It's which 12 teams can we justify the easiest? I think that is the formula for the playoff committee. I think they got it right. Hate the process. Don't feel bad for Notre Dame, but I think they could have won the whole thing. There's my thoughts.
I think it's very well said. It's funny because this college football world, for the most part, is divided on so many things. Yet I think that there's one thing that everybody can agree on is that they think that the committee is a bunch of idiots and that their process is wrong. They might even all, and I'll say this, I've listened to someone that I think had, Josh Pate, friend of the show. He was on ESPN yesterday on their Get Up show that they do in the morning. Jordan Rogers was on there with him. They're not normal guests necessarily. They're, occasional guests. They had them on specifically to talk college football rankings. And they both, and Pate very eloquently, he's really good with how he sets things up, but he was like, exactly like you said, the problem is that across the board, if you ask, like, this is what should have been, and it's like, well, why are you upset? This is exactly what should have been. It's because they lied to us for all this time. Like, they told us the wrong process. They told us, you really expect us to believe that you can't, like, look at Miami and Notre Dame and that head-to-head game doesn't matter until, like, this last week because BYU officially is out of the way. Like, no, you can definitely have done this, 4 or 5 weeks ago when all the hay was in the barn. So it's illegitimate the way that they do it. I think that they're purely on vibes until the last couple of weeks, and then they do what they have to do, which is just not a good way to do it. And the fact that, I don't know if you saw the pettiness of the ACC network, but they showed Miami's win over Notre Dame this whole week. So they were like, maybe this is the first time that the committee got to watch this game, but they showed it for the past
There's a
week.
good chance that did happen all the way back in week 1. So
yeah, so
it's a long time ago for the committee.
They don't start until November. The
Yeah.
clock turns to or the calendar turns to November. So it's just frustrating. You and I are, it just seems like the committee is a bunch of casuals and it's the most important thing you could be doing. And why are casual fans, which of course these aren't fans, these are
I'm about to say,
athletic
not
directors.
fans.
And
Yeah.
so, of course you have the changing of the chair in the middle of all of it. So all of that kind of going on. I just felt
That
like
doesn't
neither
matter.
chair gave us a good explanation. Last year's chair gave us terrible explanations on stuff. I don't think we've ever had a chair of the committee going back to 2014 that I remember feeling confident in what they've said. I remember usually coming away confused. And it just gets more convoluted. So I just feel like there's a bunch of groupthink and then they just get something out and then the chair gets up there and doesn't really have his talking points down and just tries to exist in the 2 minutes that he's going to be grilled with questions by softball questions by Reese Davis and then goes on about his merry way. So it's a broken system. It worked again miraculously, but we'll see. We will see. They're going to keep doing this until they add 16 teams because that's the solution.
Then we'll argue about 3 and 4 lost teams that should get in that are not going to win it all.
Yeah.
When we go to 24, it'll be 4 and 5 lost teams. Yeah, what a shame. All right, what's not a shame
Texas,
is
2 losses, Ohio State and Georgia, and their third loss, of course, on the road at Florida. They're eliminated, and then half the teams on the schedule didn't have to play anything close to those teams. So it just seems kind of ridiculous. But
again, I don't feel bad for Texas either. Beat Florida. Beat Florida and you're 10-2 and you're in the playoff with those 2 losses. So yeah, we're arguing over mediocrity. Yeah, don't feel bad for Notre Dame. Excited to watch the Pop-Tarts Bowl though, Daniel. Bowl season is still happening. And Daniel, I just have extremely fond memories. I mean, as recent as last year and every year of my life before that, of like being out of school and it being like Tuesday, December 21st and having bowl games on TV. Like it's like 1:00 and you're like, yes, like, dude, the Birmingham Bowl, like
used to be Capital One Bowl week.
Yeah, dude. I mean, like the Sun Bowl. And then of course, I mean, as college football fans, and if you're listening to this podcast, you probably feel the same way. Like, dude, New Year's Eve and New Year's Day is what it is as far as it being the new year. But it's a football holiday, man. Like college football gets to own New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. And those are typically when those, not just your playoff games and not just in New Year's Six, but also like, dude, the Citrus Bowl and the Gator Bowl and the Outback Bowl and like these big New Year's Day bowl games where growing up a fan of Georgia and an SEC team, it's like all 3 of those were an accomplishment. It's like if you didn't get the Sugar Bowl, if you're playing in the Outback Citrus or Gator Bowl, that's a big deal. I mean, even dude, the Liberty Bowl, Music City Bowl. Like, so I love bowl season. Daniel, we're not going to pick all of these games, but how about we go back and forth? What's a bowl game that you're excited to watch this bowl season?
Yeah, I feel bad because we talked about conference championship week. I didn't mention Kennesaw State, so I'm mentioning them.
Dude, thank you.
So that was a huge win on Friday night. We're jacked up about that.
Yes.
Huge. They were leading. They were controlling the game. The refs tried to steal it from them. They came back and scored on a last-second drive. Amari Odom threw a touchdown in the end zone to avenge their conference loss to Jacksonville State by winning the conference championship. So, yes, naturally, I am excited about the Myrtle Beach Bowl, the first time that Kennesaw State will play in a bowl game. It's going to be Friday, December 19th at 11 a.m. I'll probably be working, so I'll probably be watching while I work because it's just a Friday at 11 a.m. But it's on ESPN. They're playing Western Michigan. Yeah, that's awesome.
I love it. Yeah, shout out to the Owls. They tried to steal it from us, Daniel, but they couldn't take it.
I don't want to go to war with the Owls. That's all.
You don't want to go to war with the Owls. That's right. I'll go to the Bucked Up LA Bowl, Daniel. We're calling this the Chris Peterson Bowl between Boise State and Washington. So just fun because it's the Chris Peterson Bowl and 8 p.m. on this Saturday, we're recording this on December 9th, December 13th. So if you're listening to this before then, this game is Saturday at 8 p.m. on ABC. So they're getting a primetime slot there in SoFi Stadium.
Yeah, I mean, we still have regular season games this Saturday. Technically, it's Army-Navy, so I don't even know if we're not going to call that a bowl game, but I am watching that game on Saturday.
Love it. All right. Oh, I had a few written down. I'm scrolling through here. Let's just go to the Bad Boy Mowers Pinstripe Bowl. We
That
got,
name gets me every
I
time,
know,
dude.
me too. Penn State and Clemson. Shout out to Ben, a team member here at the Extra Point. He's running our social media marketing for the Extra Point. Go Tigers. Look, I mean, if you told me before the season, hey, Penn State and Clemson will be meeting for a postseason bowl game, what do you think it is? I would have guessed, I don't know, like the Peach Bowl, the Fiesta Bowl. Both of those are semifinal games. Man, we got them noon on December 27th in Yankee Stadium in the Bad Boy Mowers Pinstripe Bowl. So
Dude.
I'm legitimately excited to watch it because both teams showed effort down the stretch in the season, and I think they'll show some effort in this game. So
they're playing with pride,
should be a
man.
good game. That's right.
Yeah, it's on ABC. I like that. If you ask the people of the Bad Boy Mowers Pinstripe Bowl at the beginning of the season, hey, do you know that you'll have a chance to have Penn State and Clemson? And they're looking and they're like, did we just become a New Year's Six bowl?
That's right.
Are we in the playoff? Are we a playoff bowl?
Are we a playoff game?
They would start. I mean, people are asking questions. So
yeah,
that's a great one. Yeah, I love that. We already mentioned the Pop-Tart Bowl, but just for our dude, shout out to our Georgia Tech listeners. This has been, I know how the season ended. There's still a way to play for pride. You're playing against a team that's ranked in the college football playoff top 12 in BYU. BYU's coming into this game. They're still proud to play. And
they've only lost to one team this season.
Yeah, just lost to them twice pretty badly. BYU's a 4.5-point favorite, at least right now. But that one's in the, Camping World Stadium in Orlando. That's a fun trip, man. That's a fun trip. BYU people will not be able to partake in anything, but the Georgia Tech people will have fun. But then you basically get to, eat a mascot at the end of the game, and it's not cannibalism. It's just a huge Pop-Tart. So that's awesome. I would love, Jacob, just really quick, since you're a connoisseur of, uniforms and all things, matchup, would it not be awesome for the Pop-Tarts Bowl, the teams to just have special Pop-Tarts branded, or not branded, but themed uniforms, like, I don't know, sprinkles on their helmet, or
that.
on there.
The easiest thing would be, I saw someone mock this up, of like sprinkles inside the logo, because that at that point you're just adding stickers. I'm all about doing fun things for bowl games,
like a little thing. That would be fun.
And that's easy to order. You know what I mean? That's not going to mess up your uniform. Yes, that'd be fun. That's like every team that plays in the Rose Bowl should add a rose in their uniform somewhere.
Dude, that'd be cool.
Like Ohio State did, like the roses inside the red stripe of the helmet. Of course, Utah and TCU and Wisconsin, there's been a lot of teams who have done this, the full rose through the logo on the side. It looks awesome. Yeah, I'm all about, especially just like something as simple as a helmet sticker to add a little spice to the uniform for the bowl game. Absolutely. Especially something like the Pop-Tarts Bowl. Dude, yeah, just do the sprinkles, man. It's awesome.
They'll sell itself, man. I'm into some merch if that's the case. That's all I'm saying. If they can make merch with that logo.
I almost bought the Pop-Tarts Bowl polo last year. I might buy it this year because it was almost like the rowback look of like the print. It was just like a sprinkle polo. Yes. Elite. Pop-Tarts,
there's
if you want to send us a polo.
That get you fired up, and that's one of them. You think about like the Duke's Mayo Bowl. I'm just kidding. No, Pop-Tarts Bowl.
I missed the Outback Bowl, man.
It's so fun, man. Dude, Outback Bowl.
FlyQuest, get out of here.
Dude, respectfully.
Okay, I'll add another one. The Gator Bowl, Virginia, Missouri. This is a class. I love the Gator Bowl.
That one's good.
Because it's always like the ACC 2, and this is exactly what it is this year. It's the ACC 2 against the SEC 8. It all, in like, regardless of the result,
favored by a touchdown.
Yeah. So it's, for people who hate people talking about the depth of conferences, you're going to hate bowl season. It typically is like this. Outside of like the Capital One Bowl or whatever, the Citrus Bowl is usually like the, SEC 3 versus Big Ten 3, somewhere in there. That's pretty even. Outback Bowl is usually about the same, but you get a few of these bowl games where it's like SEC 8 versus ACC 2. Anyway, it always is fun. I'm looking forward to watching that one.
All right, I've got one. It's off the radar. This one's not on the radar for folks. We got a rivalry game in a bowl game. Okay?
Yes.
The J-Lab Birmingham Bowl.
That's right.
Okay. App State and Georgia Southern. Okay, these are two hated rivals. way back into their Big South Conference days, SoCon. They've been rivals for a long time. They battled up in FCS. They were swapping championships back in the day before North Dakota State basically took hold of that. And then they both moved up to the FBS together. They're both in the Sun Belt. They've already played this year. And yes, they're playing again in the Birmingham Bowl. This is awesome. These teams hate each other. App State is not qualified, but they got qualified because some teams did not play. So they're 5-7. They got the invite. They said, sure, we'll come play. Checks notes. The Georgia Southern Eagles. So this one's going to be awesome, man.
Yeah.
Georgia Southern favored by 2.5. I mean, if you love ball, there's going to be two teams that hate each other in a bowl game. They're going to be on vacation hating each other. What's better than that?
I love it. I got two more. I'll let you mention one of them if I don't mention it. I'll start with the Alamo Bowl. The Alamo Bowl is always a fun game. It seems like I'm actually looking up to see like game history. I mean, the one that sticks out is that TCU comeback where Gary Patterson changed his polo. Was it TCU? Yeah, it was Oregon. It was 2016. It was 47-41. They were down. I think they were down like 31 points. I'm not kidding. And he changes polo at halftime, and they come out and complete the comeback. One of the best games you'll ever watch. But I mean,
I'm expect fans to not be superstitious after a coach changes his polo and they completely flip the game. How are fans ever supposed to be like, nothing I do matters? It's like, no, I'm wearing the wrong socks, doggone it.
That's right. So yeah, Alamo Bowl, that'll be a good one between USC and TCU. You know, TCU back in the game. But yeah, that'll be a really fun game in the Alamo Bowl, 9 p.m. on December 30th. So that's always a fun one and a fun little bowl, forever bowl venue.
My last one is, you probably were going to mention this one, but Cheez-It Citrus Bowl.
Yeah, that's the one.
Texas, Michigan, both 9-3. Both had, lofty expectations, Texas more so than Michigan. Both had good seasons still considering, and two fun quarterbacks that should be back next year. So maybe a good launching point for whoever wins. And this is Citrus Bowl is a big bowl. So I don't care what you say, with the New Year's Six and all that kind of stuff, or the playoff and everything. Citrus Bowl is a big bowl. It's important. Also in Orlando. So yeah, that one, Michigan, Texas. Yeah, give me that one every day of the week.
I love it. All right, Daniel, we've got our playoff bracket. We've got 12 teams. I don't think all 12 teams can win the national championship. How many teams do you think can win the national championships, and which ones are they?
I've got 2, 3, 4. Sorry, I did do this before, but I changed something later. 2, 3, 4, 5. I've got 5 teams.
Okay. I've got 4. I started with 6, and I took 2 off. I've got 4.
Okay, yeah, I've adjusted my list a couple of times as well. Okay.
Or give me one, and I'll say if it's on my list. We'll go that way.
Okay, let's knock out the big hitters. Ohio State.
Yes.
Georgia.
Also yes.
Okay, I've also got Oregon.
Yes.
Okay, and let's see if I go 4 for 4 here. Your fourth one is crap. Oh, Indiana.
I do not have as Indiana as a team I think can win the whole thing. What's your other one?
My other one is I have Alabama.
Okay, Alabama was on my 6 and I took them off. Miami is my last one.
Dude, that is sneaky, and I have some stuff to say about them as far as when we get to our picks, but I agree. As far as I can see the vision where you're going with that.
Let me ask you this, Daniel. We don't have to dive into that. Like Ohio State, we agree on. Georgia, we agree on. Oregon, we agree on. I don't think it's hard to see why. These are talented rosters. They've shown, 2 losses between the 3 of them. No, 3 losses between the 3 of them. They've shown they can win championships. Level of coaching, all that stuff. Here's where I started. I started with blue chip ratio, which is why I eliminated Indiana and Texas Tech.
I like it.
Because I told David Cobb this, friend of the show, CBS writer. Until it happens, I'm not going to pick it. It's like picking a 16 to beat a 1 in the NCAA tournament for basketball. It's like, yeah, you can pick it, and it's happened one time, but like until it happens, now I guess it's happened there, but I'm not going to pick it because now it's an interesting dichotomy. Now you have to win more games, which I would say that's not going to allow non-blue chip teams to win it because now you got to go beat probably 3 other blue chip teams.
It lowers your percentages for sure. Your probability goes way down.
Except, I do think that rosters talent is more spread out than it was 4 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So does that cancel that out? I don't know, but I'm still in the camp of I am going to have to see an Indiana go and win the whole thing for me to have them on the list and say a non-blue chip team can go win it all. I'm just not going to pick it, nor am I going to believe it until I see it. Maybe that's on me, but that's my first line is, are you a blue chip team? And that eliminated, I think there's 8 blue chip teams in the field. I then went, if you remember this, Daniel, before the season, I had my little formula for what makes a national champion. You've got to be, at the end of the season, top 6 in defense on SP+, top 10 on offense, or number 1 in the opposite category. So if you don't have a 6 defense, you've got to be the best offense in the field. And if you don't have a top 10 offense, you've got to be the number 1 defense. Right now, Daniel, there are only, let me double check this real quick. There are only 2 schools that are in the top 10 and top 6 right now. But it's not the end of the year and you're going to play 3 more games. There's 6 teams that are within striking distance. One of those is Texas Tech. Texas Tech is one of the 2 teams that qualify for that right now, but they're not a blue chip team. The other one's Indiana. They qualify for that right now, but not a blue chip team. The teams that are within striking distance are Ohio State, Oregon, Georgia, and Miami. There's my 4. And I initially had Alabama and Texas A&M on that list because some of my other parameters are, do you have, obviously, a blue chip roster, but on the line of scrimmage, do you have the size and speed to go win 3 or 4 of these games? So Texas A&M and Alabama were initially on my list, but like Alabama's offense, Daniel, ranks 26th in SP+. So they're not in striking distance of historically what has made up a national championship contender. Same thing with Texas A&M. Their defense is 21st, so they're not in striking distance of having a top 6 defense. So those are teams that, like on eye test, I just wrote down those 6. I eliminated Alabama and Texas A&M because of that, and I'm left with those 4. Miami is my sneaky one. We'll get to them, but at their peak, they've shown they can do it. Now, do I really think they can be at their peak for the full playoff? We'll get to my picks, but I wouldn't be like shocked if they won it all. I'd be surprised. I will say, if you gave me the top 4 seeds versus the field, I would take the top 4 seeds versus the field.
Yeah, that's fair. Well, I mean, you get Georgia and Ohio State in that.
And Indiana. If you really believe they're the best team in the country, which they played like it, you get Indiana too.
That is true. Yeah, for me, I mean, similar, but I just, for Indiana purposes, I feel like Indiana and Alabama both have that, from the side of the bracket that they're coming, I think certain matchups could work out for both of them. I just think Ohio State, Georgia, of course, we don't have to argue those. Oregon, these teams have been resting. I'm curious how the teams that haven't had to play championship games are going to pan out. So I'm interested to see like Oregon and Texas A&M and how those teams will, show up on, their that week 1, or excuse me, the first round, not week 1. But yeah, I don't think that there's Miami. I'll say this for Miami, a team that thought they were dead being resurrected. There's something about a second chance at life. So Miami, knowing that they've got a second chance, that, think about BYU, Notre Dame, Miami, they're all saying, just give us a shot. Think about Vanderbilt. They're trying to play a game last weekend. Give us a shot and let us show you what we can do. If Miami was in the ACC championship, they would have pummeled either one of those teams. They would have pummeled them.
We think.
We think. I think that given the opportunity, Miami, I mean, just looking at what they did to Pittsburgh kind of gives me that vibe of like, nah, they're ready. Like they're trending back up for the playoff. And I think they're a tough draw. That's a tough, like Ohio State being the 2 seed, I think is actually worse than being the 3 seed because they're going to either play Texas A&M or Miami. And I think they're going to play Miami. And I think that like you're right. That is a tough one. I was back and forth on Miami. So put me down for Miami as well. How about that?
All right, Daniel, let's get to picks against the spread. We've got our first 4 games. We've got our first round on college campuses, which is a lot of fun. And we have 2 rematches in the first round, which, hey, I will say credit to the committee for saying they're not going to consider rematches when they're making the rankings, because I thought for sure, they're going to say that, but they'll do a little We have Alabama at 9 and Miami at 10. We'll just move those to avoid a rematch. Not a huge difference. They didn't. We got 2 rematches in the first round. Let's start with one of them. Oklahoma versus Alabama. Oklahoma won round 1 in Tuscaloosa. We get round 2 in Norman. Alabama, 1.5-point favorite on the road in Norman. You might ask, how could this be? If you look at how that first game played out, Bud Elliott said this right after the game of Alabama would be favored by more over Oklahoma than they were yesterday. And doubled them up in yardage. Turnovers are considered a random stat. I would argue for these elite defenses, they create way more opportunities for turnovers, and Oklahoma's is one of those that does that and capitalizes. But Alabama, 1.5-point favorite. First round of the playoff, they get their chance still. Oklahoma gets the chance to show the defense wins championships. Man, who do you like in this first game in Norman? And for the record, we are picking against the spread. So give me your pick, but we are picking against the spread for this.
Yes. So Kalen DeBoer went 2 so far in his young Alabama career against Oklahoma. Both of them seemed like pretty big upsets. Last year's especially, because that one was an Oklahoma team that really wasn't going anywhere. That one was at least in Norman, where it was like, okay, it's tough to go on the road. This year, Alabama losing at home to Oklahoma was surprising. I think I did pick that game correctly, but you were on the right side of it because, like you said, Alabama just doubled them up. And really, you look at the post-game win expectancy, Oklahoma stole that game. That was one that they should not, quote unquote, should not have won. I do think Alabama is the better team. I get really worried offensively for Oklahoma. I feel like they're, Sategna or bust. If he has a big game, great. If he scores 2 touchdowns, awesome. He's got 7 touchdowns on the year, just shy of 1,000 yards. He's got half the production for John Mateer. The offense has just, I know Mateer was injured for a little bit. He seemed like he was getting better as the year went on as far as recovering from the injury. The 10 interceptions, he missed a game. Was it 2? He missed 1 game.
It was 1 or 2. Yeah.
So a game and a half, we'll say. Whatever. 10 interceptions for a full 12-game season, though, is still a ton. 10 interceptions, man, that really worries me. They don't really have a running game. The good news for them is they're going against the Alabama team that doesn't really have a great running game. Of course, they're coming off their -3 yards against Georgia at the SEC Championship. Jam Miller's been hurt for multiple stints this year. It's unclear whether he'll be back for this. Of course, it's not, a month off. It's just like a bye week essentially, and then they're back at it. We'll see though. The thing I trust most, I think Kalen DeBoer can get it done as a coach. I think Alabama has a better roster. And when it comes down to it, I think Ty Simpson will make more plays than John Mateer, and he'll take care of the ball. If I'm adding all of that up, it's got me at an Alabama win on the road. I also think there's something to be said about playing a team twice and knowing that you had one stolen from you the first time and being able to go right that wrong. I think that would be really big. And it's a big point of, encouragement, for the Alabama team. I think a lot of those players can get motivated for this game. Not that you're not going to be motivated for a playoff game, but there's something personal about it. So these rematches have something to say. Give me Alabama. Let me lay this 1.5 points. I think they win close. I think it's a 4 to 6 point game. But yeah, give me the Tide in the game and covering with the 1.5 point spread.
I'm with you. Give me the Tide to win. And it's 1.5. I think they cover 2. The best unit on the field is Oklahoma's defense. And we kind of said this going to the Georgia game of Alabama's run game is not going to make a difference in this, in that Oklahoma can stop the run, but Alabama's not been trying to run the ball all year. It's just kind of a mute point at this point. If they get a run game back, that's very good. But I am banking on Alabama getting a little healthier in the next couple weeks, which we've got a couple weeks before this. But it sounds like they're going to get Cuevas back. Sounds like they're going to get Jam Miller back. Ty Simpson will have a few weeks to recover. Brailsford's been playing hurt on the offensive line. They're beat up. They need to get healthy and fast. And I also think giving Kalen DeBoer extra time to prep for a rematch, Kalen DeBoer and Ryan Grubb, I think they can. We'll see. I think they can I think they can scheme some points up against Oklahoma's defense. They've got to fix red zone scoring. They doubled up Oklahoma in the yards in round 1. The 3 turnovers killed them. It could absolutely go that way. Oklahoma, credit to them, opportunistic. Like all their scoring drives are very short. They had short fields because of turnovers. Again, I'm a stat nerd. Turnover, there is a bit of randomness to turnovers. And I'm just going to count on the game playing out very similar to what it did the first time. I like Alabama to win 20-13 in this one. So give me Alabama in a low-scoring game, tied over Oklahoma, which will be the first road team to win. I believe the home team's at 4-0. Yeah, Penn State. No, Penn State didn't have a home game. It was Notre Dame, Ohio State. Who else had a home game last year? It wasn't Oregon.
Notre Dame, Ohio State, SMU, Penn State.
Texas. It was Penn State then.
Penn State.
Okay,
and
I thought
Clemson played at Texas. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's right. Boise State had a first round bye. Wow. It was Penn State.
Yeah.
Okay, and then Clemson,
We
Texas,
didn't mention that, but this year that would have put Tulane having a first round bye if they didn't change that. So
it would have put Ohio State, the 5 seed, playing James Madison in round 1 and Tulane in round 2. Again, this is why they good change after 1 year, because then people would be doing the math and going, so the 5 seed,
right.
Okay, Daniel, let's go to Texas A&M and Miami. This matchup's a lot of fun because these teams line up very similar. If you look at the buildup of these teams, the makeup's very similar. The coaching staffs are very similar as far as what they want to do and the style of play they want to have. Texas A&M, a 4-point favorite at home against Miami. Who do you like in this game in College Station?
Yeah, I think sometimes we're just victims of recency bias. I think that's, me absolutely a lot of times. This game, just the vibe of it just feels, I mentioned earlier my point about Miami, like they were a team that was dead and now they're back to life. There's got to be some sense of renewed faith. I just harped on John Mateer having 10 interceptions. How about 2 quarterbacks with 10 interceptions now? Carson Beck and Marcel Reed going toe-to-toe. So I do think this game will have turnovers. I think that defense is going to matter in this game. I like both defenses. I think that Miami has a better defensive front. I think they got some dudes that are going to be in the NFL. That being said, this one's very fun. The vibes of the last game, obviously Texas A&M losing to Texas, at Texas, that's a tough one. And then Miami going to Pitt and throttling Pitt. Pitt playing for a spot in the ACC championship. Pitt trying to win the game, according to Pat Narduzzi. Pitt trying to go to the ACC championship and have a spot potentially at the playoff. Miami, that game was never close. They had their hand on their head the whole time, and they just completely dominated them. Dominated, their last several games at, Virginia Tech, North Carolina State, Syracuse. They lost to SMU in overtime, so, it is what it is. That was tough. If they didn't do that, then they would have obviously been in the ACC championship. We wouldn't have had all this craziness going on. Just the way the season ended for both of these teams, I just think if Texas A&M uses it motivation, great. I just think they were kind of a flawed team. It kind of got exposed by Texas, and I think that Miami was like kind of realizing some of their potential at the end of the year. It can work opposite of that. If A&M gets motivated from their loss, they could absolutely go out there and beat Miami. I'm not feeling that. I think Miami wins outright. They get 4 points, so I'm going to take the 4 points. But I think Miami wins this game by 4 points. I think it's like a 35-31 kind of a game down the stretch with some big situational defense at the end. So give me the Hurricanes plus the 4.
We're going to go 2 for 2. Give me Miami. If you look at the profile of these teams, EPA per rush, Miami's offense against Texas A&M's defense, 26th versus 25th, very even. EPA per dropback, Miami offense, 10th, Texas A&M defense, 8th. Other side of the ball, Miami's defense, 7th in EPA per rush. Texas A&M's offense, 7th EPA per rush. EPA per dropback, Miami's defense, 12th. Texas A&M's offense, 14th. They line up that strength on strength across the board, weakness on weakness across the board, but not really a weakness with either of these teams. It's very relative. These are 2 very good football teams. I know I said my Natty teams, but this seems like an elimination game between 2 teams that can win the national championship. It's in College Station. But give me Miami. I think they've got a few more difference makers that I think can change the game. Like Texas A&M has Casey Concepcion. Miami, if they get good Carson Beck, when he's dialed in, he's lethal. I'm going to forget the name of the receiver now. Number 10. Is it Tony?
Yeah.
The fresh, yeah. I'm gonna. He is a difference maker.
Tony.
Malachi Tony. Thank you. I'm like Kadarius Tony's. I was like, I know that's not right, but I'm pretty sure it's
that's
Tony.
not it.
I was like, it's not
Dude,
it.
He's almost
Malachi
at 1,000
Tony,
yards for the year. Yeah, he's had a big year.
And I mean, Ruben Bain on defense. You get in the red zone again. This is the one like Texas A&M. As far as points in the red zone could be better. And then they're giving up a lot of touchdowns in the red zone on the other side of the ball. So I do think this is a close game. Give me 27-24 Miami to win outright. I get 4 points, so I think they cover, but I think they win the game outright in College Station. That's just, we've picked 2 road teams, which didn't happen last year, Daniel. So you and I in lockstep. All right. I don't think either of us are going to pick underdogs to win straight up in this one. So we'll pick against the spread here. Look, let's not pretend, man. Ole Miss versus Tulane. We watched this game. It was 45-10 early in the year. Now, neither one have a head coach. Well, I know technically Ole Miss has a head coach. Ole Miss is 16.5-point favorite at home after a 35-point blowout. Who do you like in this game in Oxford, Mississippi?
Yeah, man. There's a lot of layers to this because of what's happened with the coaches. If both teams just had their full complement and the coaches and everything like that, I'm picking Tulane to cover, Ole Miss to win. I think that there's like Tulane has a good team. I've been picking them all year. I didn't pick them the last week. I should have. That they have, Retzlaff at QB. He's a dual threat. He's got 16 touchdowns rushing this year. I mean, I did say that right. 16 touchdowns rushing, 14 through the air. So 30 touchdowns. I mean, nobody's, not that he should be in the Heisman necessarily, but I mean, my goodness, he's a playoff team. He's got, 3,500 yards total and 30 touchdowns. Like, this guy can play ball. He's had a good year. He's kept them in these games. Ole Miss is just better. They're going to be better. I think you see an inspired Ole Miss team in the face of all of this stuff. They're playing at home, Vaught Hemingway. I think you're going to see them come out and really try to emphatically answer that they're meant for the playoff, even without Lane Kiffin. You're going to see these players play their hardest. I was really worried that they weren't going to have any offensive coaches. The fact that Charlie Weiss Jr. coming back is, that's just monumental. Him being able to come back and coach just so that they don't have grad assistants trying to call offensive game plans, or they're bringing in someone from outside. It's a familiar face, familiar with the style, familiar with Trinidad Chambliss, familiar with Keywan Lacey, excuse me. I think that that's huge. So give me Ole Miss. Let's lay these points to 16.5. I think it's a big blowout win for new permanent head coach Pete Golding. And I think they get an emphatic first round win at home. This is my first home team I'm picking. Give me the Rebels.
I'm with you. Give me the Rebels to win and cover 2. And also, I think Lane put out yesterday the rest of the offensive staff that left for LSU is also coming back to coach the playoff, minus Lane. So they get everybody back, coaching staff wise. Yeah, if they play their game, and again, they've had a couple weeks off. I think in this kind of game, you need to win. Like 16.5, you need to win and cover to get in the rhythm to go play Georgia again. So I don't think you're going to be like let's set our players in the fourth. Like, maybe if you're up 35 late, but I think if it's within 17, you're keeping your starters in and like getting more rhythm to go and get ready to play Georgia next week. So I like
Jacob,
Ole Miss
how many
to win and
times
cover.
do you think these teams have played each other?
In my head, I think it's a lot because Tulane used to be in the SEC and they're very close geographically. I would guess at least 40 times.
70 times.
Wow. Okay. I was like, I don't know if it's that high, but
it's a big time.
Yeah.
This is a rivalry back in the old SEC
close.
days. First matchup, 1893.
Wow.
I mean, just throw that in there. These players have no idea about that. But some of these fans, this is a geographically close. The winner of this gets to play in the Sugar Bowl. Tulane would be a home game. Ole Miss can be very close. So keep that kind of stuff in mind, dude.
Yeah.
For the pageantry that they're stripping away from the game, this is an old rivalry. Ole Miss should kill them. Old rivalry, and Ole Miss does own the all-time record, 44-28. So they're on a current 13-game winning streak. But yeah, this is old SEC rivalry. I've got some, love for that. And yeah, it's going to be fun. I think these fans are going to have fun with it. I think you're going to see a good amount of Tulane fans at Hemingway Stadium as well. But yeah, Ole Miss, dude, lay those points.
I'm with you there. All right, we're 3 for 3. Let's see if we go 4 for 4. Ole Miss and James Madison. James Madison, a 20.5-point underdog on the, excuse me, did I say Ole Miss? Did I say Oregon?
You did.
Anyway, Oregon versus James Madison. Start this over. I was about to say Eugene, and I was like, that doesn't make any sense. Let's start over.
Eugene.
Oregon. That's right. Oregon and James Madison. Oregon, a 20.5-point favorite. They get the 5 seed this year. Seeding might have screwed them last year, but hey, they get this home game against James Madison after going 11-1, only lost to Indiana. James Madison wins the Sun Belt. They get the pleasure of traveling across the country. Eugene gets a home game, 20.5-point line, Daniel. Who are you picking to cover in this one? I'm assuming you're picking Oregon to win. Who are you picking to cover between Oregon and James Madison?
Yeah, another coach that's leaving, Bob Chesney. I mean, is James Madison the kingmaker? Netty goes to Indiana. Now you got Chesney about to leave. I mean, this is a great job. You would say they're not throwing away their shot. I definitely think that I did an Alexander Hamilton for James Madison. That was definitely a reach. Oregon, though, is Dante Moore for Oregon. You and I both said at the beginning of the year, we thought we were, setting the trend by saying Dante Moore, Heisman contender. Early in the year, we felt really good about it because he had a couple really good games, and then it just kind of fell off the radar. I think people are forgetting how good he is. He's going to show up in this game, and I think it's going to be a nice reminder for everybody that Oregon is one of those teams. Just because they lost to Indiana doesn't mean that they're not going to be ready for the national championship push. This is the spot that is a prime spot to be in. 20.5 points. It's a lot, but you've got a head coach on the other side who's not 1 foot out the door, but he's going to give his best effort, but he knows what the deal is. He's about to go to his new job. And then Oregon, they've got their sights set on a national championship. 2 different ways they're trending. 20.5, that's important. All I need is a 3-touchdown victory to get this cover. I think that Oregon does that handily. So give me the Ducks, lay the points. Let's just do this thing. Autzen Stadium's going to be rocking for a playoff home game.
Yeah, man. Lay the points here. I like Oregon to win like 41-13. I don't think this is going to be very close. James Madison is severely outmatched. I think Oregon will put up however many points they want to put up on offense. I don't know how many James Madison's going to score. It's 20.5. I think it's at least a 3-touchdown game. This is like James Madison, Bud Elliott mentioned this. They might set the record for worst ever strength of schedule to make the college football playoff. Their strength of schedule was 123rd in the country. They've played no one like this. They've not seen bodies like this. It's hard to prep for that when you haven't seen it. Everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the mouth. I think James Madison's going to get punched in the mouth again and again and again. Give me Oregon big in round 1 and get them prepped to go face off against Texas Tech. In the quarters, Daniel, let's get to our brackets. Let's start. We already have our round 1 games. You and I both have Oregon over James Madison, Alabama over Oklahoma, Ole Miss over Tulane, Miami over Texas A&M. So we're in lockstep there. Let's start with, and I believe, is the Cotton Bowl Texas Tech? Did they get the Cotton? Yes. I'm going to look it up.
Nope, it's the Orange Bowl for Texas
Orange
Tech.
Bowl, that's right. So Texas Tech hosting Oregon in the Orange Bowl. Who you got in that matchup, since we got the same matchup there? Right, you want?
Yeah,
Sorry, go ahead.
I've got Oregon. So that's, for me, it's clean and simple. I think you're going to have a team that's being able to be hot because they just played. And then I also just think Oregon's better. It may be closer. I'm excited to see what the line is whenever that gets revealed, but I've got Oregon straight up.
All right, I do as well. Give me Oregon in that game. So this is my challenge with Texas Tech is I think their defense is very good. Very good. And I think they've got athletes. What's the best offense they've played? What's the best defense Texas Tech has played? Because I don't think they've beaten everybody by 20 points, minus the game they lost without their starting quarterback. But what's the best defense they've played? Statistically, like SC plus.
Oh, like what number or what team?
Or what team? What team?
The best
The Texas
that
Tech has faced.
Texas Tech has faced. Oh man, did they play Iowa State?
No, but it's BYU. It's BYU. They beat them twice. Ranked 23rd on SP Plus. Their defense, I think, is going to play with anybody. I wonder about what their offense is going to do against a defense like Oregon's a top 5 defense. We'll get to the rest of the thing, but I'm with you. Give me Oregon over Texas Tech. We've both got Alabama versus Indiana in the Rose Bowl. Who do you like in that game, Daniel?
Signetti against his former employer, Alabama. Not Nick Saban, but Alabama. Signetti talked a big game early in the year about the SEC. He also has backed up everything that he's done so far because they're undefeated. He's a guy that doesn't run from those kinds of things. This game, I'll just be straight up with you, I really don't know. But if I think that Alabama's going to win their first round game, then I think that the vibes will be up for the Tide. And I kind of think that mentally they could break the other team across the field from them. They are more talented, severely more talented as well. I've got Alabama in that game.
Give me Indiana. Give me Indiana. I've seen Alabama enough to know they can beat Oklahoma. Look, I'm trying to trust my eyes here, Daniel. Indiana's went and beat Ohio State straight up, not fluky. Beat Oregon on the road. I think they can beat Alabama on a neutral site on some nice grass in the Rose Bowl. Give me Indiana. They've looked like a top 2 team all year. Georgia and Ole Miss. I've got the Dogs. Who you got?
Yeah, rinse, repeat. I think this is where not having Lane Kiffin shows up.
Yeah.
For them, and I think it's just as simple as that. Rematch game, but I think Georgia's defense is so much further along, and if you're telling me you don't have Lane for the offense to continue humming, then it is what it is. Georgia's very physical, and they're just gonna overpower them at this point.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I've got Ohio State over Miami. Who do you like in that quarterfinal matchup?
Yeah, same for me. Keeping it simple. I think Miami's got plenty of, ability. That's one where I could see them dropping, being a big upset. But yeah, Ohio State, they're maybe the best team out there, so we'll see.
All right, I've got Oregon and Indiana in one of my semifinals, and that'll be the Peach Bowl. This is where I say I gotta see it to believe it. Give me Oregon over Indiana in the rematch. Oregon's got better bodies, could do this multiple times. I would not be surprised to see Indiana win this game and find themselves in the national championship. I wouldn't. I'd be surprised if they won the whole thing. But it's hard for me to look at these rosters and pick Indiana. It's just I'm showing my bias. I'm a talent biased person. It's hard for me to look at these rosters and trust that Indiana's going to go do it again. Give me Oregon over Indiana in that semifinal game. You've got You've got Oregon and Alabama in this one in the Peach Bowl. Who do you like there?
A rivalry renewed. Kalen DeBoer versus Dan Lanning.
That's right.
Dan
Undefeated.
Lanning had plenty of Kalen DeBoer when he was at Washington. He was like, "Hey, I'm good. Y'all get out of here, please." That being said, I think Lanning gets his revenge here. I think that he's got the team that is better and more suited for this spot. And so I think this is where Oregon would beat Alabama. There'd be enough for Dan Lanning to overtake Kalen DeBoer. There's a little bit of, spice to this rivalry for coaches. So give me Oregon over Alabama.
All right, Daniel. Fiesta Bowl, Georgia and Ohio State. They played a classic in the Peach Bowl a couple years ago. This is the game I had the hardest time with. I'll save another comment about that for a second. But I said a few weeks ago, I'm picking Ohio State to win it all. That just is what it is. They've looked like the best team all year. And if you asked me the question, how many teams can win the Natty a few weeks ago, I would have said it depends. Does Ohio State look mortal before the season ends? Because if not, I think it's one. Ohio State not only looked mortal, they got beat. That opened the door for, I think, 4. Give me Georgia over Ohio State, Daniel. This team's trending in the right direction. The defense is what has changed my mind on Georgia to, potentially to make it this far, at least, is I think Georgia's defense can physically match Ohio State. And if they can get pressure with 4, those young corners have come along. I'm very excited to see, if you're a college football go like we are, you saw the videos of the 7-on-7 stuff between Jeremiah Smith and Ellis Robinson. You potentially get that in this game. Number 1 wide receiver versus number 1 corner of that class. Georgia's got the DBs that just like Indiana, that could potentially keep them in check depending on the game plan for Ohio State. Give me the Dogs over Ohio State in that semi. Should be another classic if we get it.
Yeah, I love that this is a rematch from a couple years ago where it's also again a semifinal and not the national championship, when you kind of feel like these may be the two best teams in the field. And I think you're gonna see physicality show up. I think you're gonna see like the mindset of their head coach. You're gonna see, Ryan Day is free from his demons. He won his national championship last year
and beat Michigan,
and he beat Michigan this year. But you also see, so Kirby has, obviously won his championships and he beat Bama previously, but beating Alabama, I think, is going to have Georgia very loose in this playoff. And I really like how they're going to be down the stretch. So I've also got the Dogs. I'm covering up my Georgia patch. We are kind of a Dogs podcast right now. We're both picking the Dogs over Ohio State. And I think we have the same national championship game.
We do. We've both got Georgia and Oregon. Give me the Dogs. They're getting hot at the right. This Ohio State last year is the blueprint, I think, right? Of can you get healthy and hot at the right time with a roster that is good enough to win it all? And
isn't that what life is all about? Being hot and healthy. All right. That's all we're trying to do. Right. And especially true for these college football teams.
Oregon is a team that if I'm just like, without knowing anything about next year, that I'm just like, man, Oregon might be my natty pick for next year if I'm just thinking about it. I think they're a year off. I think Georgia has put the puzzle pieces together. I could be wrong. What I was going to say is, Daniel, that's the semifinal game between Georgia and Ohio State does feel like the best two teams in the field.
Yeah.
And that's, again, I think Indiana's looked like a top two team all season. I'm going to have to see it to believe it. I'm just showing my bias there. I think Ohio State and Georgia are the best two teams in the field. That feels like the natty. I think the winner of that game wins the national championship. And I'm betting on us getting that game. So that's where my head's at, is the winner of that game wins it all. Right now I'm picking Georgia. Who you got?
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely not going to rain on anybody's parade. This is I keep talking about matchups because that's kind of, you got to think about, I'm talking about coaching matchups specifically, but Kirby Smart versus Dan Lanning, there's been obviously a history there, Lanning on Kirby's staff previously, but they've also played, gone against each other as head coaches. Of course, it was right at the beginning of Lanning's head coaching tenure. That being said, there is something to that, of the master and the apprentice. You saw that with Smart and with Saban. And there's a certain level of comfort, I think, that Kirby Smart and Georgia would have with playing a team like Oregon, because I feel like they would know who they're up against. I think it'd be a very physical national championship, but I agree with you. Ohio State and Georgia, I think, are the two best teams in the field. They play in the semifinals. So whoever emerges from that group, I think, wins the national championship. So in this case, it's the Dogs. So give me the Dogs over the Ducks for the national championship.
I don't think this will decide the title, but something to keep an eye on. How many of these playoff teams have coaches, especially coordinators, that are taking other jobs? Ohio State's offensive coordinator, coaching to the playoff, but is taking the job with a portal window that opens up January 2nd. Both of Oregon's coordinators taking other jobs but coaching through the playoff. Ole Miss, obviously, a lot of coaching changes. Texas Tech, that's not happening. Indiana, that's not happening.
Texas A&M, Colin Klein's leaving to be the head coach, but he's coaching through the playoff.
So as I'm getting to the end here, if I'm splitting hairs, I am looking at Ohio State and Oregon and going, especially Oregon, is that going to make a difference? Did they lose to Texas Tech? And who knows? They might just get beat on the field, but I do wonder behind the scenes. I know it's got to be tough to prep for a game like this, and I know you do your game prep, in February, prepping for stuff like this because you work on you and get your team in the right mindset. But when you start to play good teams and splitting hairs matters for the result, I do wonder if those coaches trying to be two places at once matters down the stretch. I don't know the answer to that, but I'm at least curious, and I've at least got it in the back of my mind as I'm picking these games. Like, Georgia doesn't have that. Their coaches are locked in. So I am curious to see if that makes an effect on the playoff. Be sure, I'll say this, if you think you can beat us in playoff picks, join our ESPN bracketology group. You can do that clicking the link below, or just search for the Extra Point on ESPN. I mean, it's in the episode description. You can click it right there. Come pick your playoff bracket against us. You've got a couple weeks to get that done, and we'll see about a winner. We'll see about a prize for the winner. We'll see. Might be a firm handshake and a congratulations. Might be more than that. We'll see. But be sure to follow us at the Extra Point Pod on Instagram and YouTube, and subscribe as well. That helps us out, and it's free. You can follow Daniel on Twitter at DeepSouthDaniel. You can follow me on Twitter at Jacob Karnes with a K. That'll do it for this edition of the Extra Point. He is Daniel. I am Jacob. See ya.